Kate Falcha, welcome to Irish Granny Helen. This is going to be a little discussion of Stoicism and courage. Before we start, I apologize for the racket in the background. My parrot is listening to opera. I don't know what to tell you. So before I start, I would like to read a little bit that Plato wrote about Stoicism and courage. And he came out with his philosophies a very long time before the Stoics, people who identified themselves as Stoics. So they were all students of Zeno, the members of the Stoa. They met in this, not amphitheater, but like a colonnade, an open air hallway with columns, and they would meet in that corner, and that's how they became known as Stoics. So Plato's definition of courage: the state of the soul which is unmoved by fear, unmoved by military knowledge of the facts of warfare. Now keep in mind, this is old. Self-restraint in the soul about what is fearful and terrible, boldness and obedience to wisdom, being intrepid in the face of death, the state which stands on guard over correct thinking in dangerous situations, force which counterbalances danger, the force of fortitude in respect of virtue, calm in the soul about what correct thinking takes to be frightening or encouraging things, the preservation of fearless beliefs about the terrors and experience of warfare, the state which cleaves to the law. So let's read a little bit about Stoicism and courage, or fortitude is another word for it. Stoicism believes that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting despite the feelings of fear. Sorry, this is all crooked. I don't know if that actually records as crooked, but it's making me crazy. Courage is the ability to act despite fear, not the absence of fear. It involves facing adversity with self-possession, with confidence, with resilience, and with the resolution about upholding one's principles. So it's such a devotion to your principles that no matter what, you're going to stick to them. That predisposes that you know what your principles are. That's the crux of the issue here. Courage helps us properly understand and deal with our feelings, situations, our choices when there's fear. It's the ability to act as one ought to act within a dangerous or scary situation, despite feeling the fear. You might see a pattern here of what we're talking about in the context of our larger society right now. This is what a Stoic would tell you. And it's immaterial what age, what time period we talk about this. People are people. Courage is greatness of the soul. It's perseverance and endurance in doing the right thing. It's industriousness. It's the love of labor. I don't know. That's a feature I have to work on. It's being able to persist in the face of hardships and challenges. And this is, to me, this was the most important sentence in this whole thing I read. To persist in the face of hardships and challenges, even when difficult or unpopular. Okay. Courage is a foundational virtue that enables the practice of all other virtues. To be evolved spiritually, to be an honorable person, to live a good and meaningful life, those things are equated in Stoicism. One must develop one's character by shaping it with virtue. You don't just, it doesn't just happen. You have to work at it. So there's a modern Stoic. Didn't know there was such a thing. There's a modern Stoic, an author by the name of Massimo Pigliucci. And this is what he had to say. Courage is emotional strength that involves the exercise of will to accomplish goals in the face of internal or external opposition. It's the specific manifestations. The specific manifestations of courage are bravery, perseverance, and authenticity or honesty. Cicero had something to say about it, because Cicero had something to say about everything. And about the Stoic soul, he said there are two characteristics that are necessary. The first is an indifference to outward circumstance. Now, that doesn't mean you don't care. That means internally you know what's right. That's not going to change because of outward circumstance. Right is right is right. So it's the antithesis of moral ambiguity, or what's the word I want? Relativity, moral relativity. So it's an indifference to outward circumstance. A Stoic is someone who cherishes the conviction that nothing but moral goodness and propriety deserves to be admired, deserves to be wished for, or deserves to be striven after. A moral man, a Stoic man, will not be subject to any other man or passion or accident of fortune. Now, this is all ideals. This is what we strive for. This is not, this is not easy. A Stoic soul is strengthened like this, seeking these things, and should do deeds not only great and in the highest degree useful, but extremely arduous and fraught with danger, both to life and to many things that make life worth living. The people I often think of when I think of Stoics, and these are not Stoic philosophers, these are people who lived a life of exemplars of Stoic belief, whether they knew it or not, are people like Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, which I did cover in my Saturday book several years ago. And I think I was going to redo it, but so many books, so little time. I think I'm going to make a playlist, and you can seek that out. I'll try to remember, so that it's easily accessed. I'll do the scrolling for you and I'll find it, because I can't imagine that my reading of it would be all that different the next time around as far as just synopsizing. We'll see. In the meantime, I also think as a Stoic, I think of Sophie Scholl, the White Rose organization during the late 30s in Germany, who very bravely resisted and ended up suffering the ultimate because of that. But in both those cases, Viktor Frankl, the Scholls, her extended family, they did what was right, what they knew was right, in an extremely arduous situation, fraught with danger to their lives, and to many things that make life worth living. Therefore, the courageous person will stop at nothing to act in the name of moral goodness, virtue. Stoic courage depends on knowing what is morally good and morally evil. You can't act on the right if you don't know what the right is. Right meaning not wrong. Seneca, Stoic philosopher, said that bravery is not thoughtless rashness, or the love of danger, or the courting of fear, or the courting of things that instill fear. So courage is not having a Cane Corso that you can't take out in public because it's such a mean dog. That's not courage. That's not being a big brave guy because you've got a dangerous animal. Not all of them, but let's face it. Courage is not the bluster and the toxic masculinity and the always being ready to fight, take people on. That's not true courage. Courage is speaking out in defense of the vulnerable, as an example. Courage is the knowledge that enables us to distinguish between evil and good. It takes the greatest care of itself. So if you're courageous, you're not foolhardy. It endures with the greatest patience all things which have a false appearance of being evils. You recognize what they are. But it's not about picking fights unless you're defending somebody. So how to practice Stoic courage? This is a big ask. This is hard. You have to nurture and develop profound inner strength. And this is not about physical bravery. This is a resilience that we build in the face of life's challenges with equanimity. And these challenges, they can be small. We're not talking about the big monumental things. Every single day we're faced with annoyances like the 45-minute wait on the phone with terrible music, being impatient in traffic, getting into line at the grocery store and the people in front of you are just fumbling through and keeping you waiting. You see a thread here of impatience. This would be my issue. Dealing with those particular challenges in life, it's like working a muscle. You're developing inner strength. You're developing profound inner strength. And when you choose to do the right thing, not say the snarky comment, not think the unfair thought about somebody. Those are subtle ways, but you build your inner courage. And it's not an isolated trait. It's an integral part of living a virtuous life. It should be practiced in harmony with wisdom, justice, and temperance. Those are the four things: courage, wisdom, justice, temperance. We're going to talk about them all. But courage is not rash or reckless acts. It's aligning the will with reason. You act virtuously regardless of the external circumstance. So now how do you parse the difference there? It's not being foolhardy. It's not taking unnecessary risks. Courage is not going out there full of bluster and a loud truck and a gun. And, it's not about that. It's about speaking out against the bully on the playground. When you see something unfair, speaking up and not being afraid to speak up, which is scary these days. It can be very scary. And real courage is weighing the necessity for the good that you must do with the foolhardiness of putting yourself in danger with no solid purpose in sight. Courage is not what you're not afraid of. That's not courage. It's what you are afraid of, but you're willing to face anyway. It's knowing what is or is not worth fearing or facing. It's being judicious about picking your battles. But always you center the well-being of people or animals, the vulnerable. Also, the intention behind a display of courage is important. If you're all, oh, look at me, that's not real courage, because what's your intention? It's ego, pride. There's no value in needlessly endangering yourself just to look courageous. So if you feel like you have to jump out of helicopters to go skiing down a mountain, you might want to evaluate that. A courageous person will avoid danger. A courageous person is careful, but not fearful. It's a virtue that enables us to endure pain, loss, or setbacks, and to stand up for what's right, even when it's unpopular or uncomfortable. I think of I'm really bad, the former NFL player who spoke out in Huntington Beach at the city council meeting against the MAGA plaque the library was going to put up. that took courage because he knew it would make him unpopular. He knew the cops were going to haul him off, and they did. It was a risk, but weighing speaking the truth and supporting fairness and speaking out against all the awful things MAGA stands for, weighing that with the relative threat of being hauled off for 4 hours to jail, that's courage. I fear that. I fear the repercussions, but this is worth doing that for. That's courage. It's cultivating resilience and wisdom and knowing the intentions behind courageous acts. It helps us embrace adversity and accept our fate gracefully. And it helps us to act virtuously. Because true courage lies within your soul. It's not a fleeting moment of valor. It's not being fearless. It's a steady flame that illuminates our path towards virtue and enables us to face and overcome obstacles. And I would like to share with you something that I got in a meditation a couple of weeks ago. The question on my mind was, are we on our own in this? Not assuming that there are saviors, but just this struggle that we now face. And I think that anybody who's watching this would probably agree that all is flux and change, and it's fluxing and changing like crazy at the moment. Things are uncertain. People are fearful. Conventions and traditions are being upended. And this is a huge challenge. There's a lot of fear. I hear from people all the time, there's a lot of fear. So that's why I was asking, about this fear. What can we do? So I haven't looked at this since I wrote it down. So this ought to be interesting. So what I got was, this is the challenge that you are here right now to face. And I was struck by how in keeping with Stoic philosophy this was. Focus not on the physical safety, your physical safety or your physical survival. Focus now on your spiritual evolution. What can you do in your daily life to be of service, to do the right thing? Inner strength comes from inner knowledge. Know your true nature. Know your purpose. I was struck by how much this agrees with what I just read in the Stoics. And I read the Stoics there that I just read to you after this meditation. There are no saviors. You are responsible for this life experience, how you handle it, and what you learn. It's about the good you can do and the love you can show. The imperative, in other words, what we are urged to do is to love one another, to be of service, to do unto others, to lead by example. Actions from love, no matter how small, feed the light. Learn from your difficulties, absorb the lessons, and then move forward. Put it behind you and continue to focus on feeding the light. So I thought I'd share that with everybody because I felt like this is a question I hear so much, and we all have the same question. And this seemed just so valuable and so timely. So I hope that helps. Next time, we'll do a little bit more on Stoicism. I have some daily practices that might be helpful, but I'm going to leave it here now. It's a lot to digest. It's a lot to process and experiment with. Try to keep this in the front of your mind on a daily basis. Now, once again, caveat, I'm not a Stoic philosopher. I wouldn't even call myself a Stoic any more than I'm a Christian or a Buddhist. But I would say that there are many, many beliefs and a lot of guidance in all of those philosophies, belief systems. And it's perfectly acceptable to pick what resonates for you in your life, as long as it's for the good. I mean, that goes without saying. So thank you very much for watching. And I hope that you'll come back to hear the rest of what I've got here on Stoicism. And if you have another philosophy that you would like me to look into, and I feel like that's what I really would like to do, and then, you can drop me a line. So, Slongafoil, Slancha.